Hey everybody, how you doing? Welcome to a special Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening cup of Ray from out here on the sidewalk, down here at the world famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill. Which, if maybe some of you out there may not already know this, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you anyway. Or if you do know, you're going to find out a third time. I'm down here at the world famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill, located down here on Central Avenue, just below 16th Street in the edge district of St. Pete. I'll try it again later. Let me tell you something. There is a Mike Alstott Purdue Boilermaker type of a crowd out here at Fergs today. Of course, right now you've got Purdue versus NC State there on the big screen. Edey, the National Basketball Player of the Year. Purdue's giving them a game, down by 6, down at one point by 11, maybe 10 points, but Purdue seems to hang in there. So, yeah, they go to halftime right now, and the score is the Purdue Boilermakers 35, NC State Wolfpack 29. So, 6-point game at halftime. Go ahead and if you do me a favor, you're just picking up the show, go ahead and share it. I'm going to go ahead and try to share it real quick. Had to go live because, honestly, truth in the advertising or truth in the pudding, been down here for a while, and you got this thing going on down here tonight. We got Purdue, of course, playing against, as I already stated, playing against NC State. And, of course, you got Alabama and UConn, Danny Hurley and UConn going for that second consecutive national championship in the Final Four matchup. Great Final Four matchup last night as you see Caitlin gets into the finals there with a controversial call late. And, yeah, my phone is blowing up. So, you know what? If you're watching me live, I can't bring you in live, but you can come by here. I can give you the link, and you can go anywhere you want. But I wish I had my soundboard set up. But the reason why I had to go live right now is because not only do we have the basketball, the men's Final Four here, but tonight out in the back, the large area, which is where I was going to go, but it's starting to pack in. There's so many people packing in for tonight's WWF out there on the big screen. Of course, if you're in the back of Fergs over here, you got the Tropicana Field there in the view and everything going on down here. But it's a great Saturday night. The Crow's Nest, or the 18th Green Clubhouse there, had a wedding party today, had a birthday party out back, and that was during the day, knowing, of course, Coach and Jake knowing that towards the evening it was going to get busy. Pull the comments up here. Anything y'all want to talk about tonight? Buccaneer free agency. I mean, Peter Blake asked Jason Light about, doing a boat parade for the free agent signings. And Jason said, we're going to sign Antoine Winfield. And, of course, Antoine gets franchised, but you brought Mike Evans and Baker Mayfield and Antoine. And, of course, you've got Levante. And then you bring in Randy Gregory. And I'm like, now we're to the point now, Jason. You told Peter, he asked you about doing that boat parade. And you said, we're going to have one. And we don't want to get gluttonous. We don't want to try to be celebrating too soon. We can save the boat parade for February, March of 2025 when we win the third championship in team history. But what a great offseason the Buccaneers are having. Let me go ahead and just share this show real quick. I'm going to tell you all what. I want to start with this, but I hate to because I know some of y'all bounce in here kind of late. So I'm going to go ahead and do a few shares real quick. Come on in. Let's talk. Of course, let me copy all of that. Select all, copy. Let's do a group. Let's go Rays Life. Because those dogs, we're talking about these Rays. Got to talk about the Lightning. I mean, I had to post yesterday, and I really appreciated all the activity, the response back to that. Because, it's crazy here. As we're getting out of the NFL season and we're getting toward baseball season and USF Bulls basketball and what they did and how they've been getting it coming off the USF Bulls in the football program, that the success they had in making the bowl games playing this last season. But it's not that we ever forget about the Lightning. It's always a time and a place. But the thing was this year is every year the Lightning have been at the top. They've got the Lord Stanley's Cup. They're older. Stamkos, he's like 73 years old, and the guys and Vasilevsky, and all of a sudden it's like you look at him in the last 35 games for your Tampa Bay Lightning, 24-9-2. Vazzy's back, feeling great. The defense is really what's doing it for your Tampa Bay Lightning. The scoring was always there. But when you mix John Cooper gets the Lightning and that defense working, along with that offense and Vazzy and net, forget about it. Oh, I got a couple of likes. Oh, got a comment. I'm always so excited when I get my first comment. Alan McTavish, Lightning. Yeah, Lightning striking down here at Ferg's world famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill on a Saturday night. Again, I told y'all it's halftime of the first game here between Purdue and between NC State and Purdue. And you got the Alabama UConn game coming up, and that's with the wrestling going on out back on the big screen. And it's just a great I mean, anywhere in the contiguous United States, you guys are, unless you're out west and maybe you're not feeling this coolness that came down here. But what a nice day here in Tampa Bay, just celebrating the beauty that is the Bucks. Lightning down 4-1 today. They come back and tie it in the third period. They end up losing, of course, 5-4. But you're talking about the Lightning last night. They lock up that playoff position. And yes, I'm going to go ahead and do a shout out here to my guy, Eric Hartnett. Let me go ahead and share this real quick. I see the comments coming in here. Let me get that one comment off the screen here first. Maybe I should share it on my own page. Okay. Sorry, y'all. This is so rude, but maybe there's activity going on. Just a great time. And I'm going to tell y'all right now, this sun is going to come down. I'm protected by some palm trees up Central Avenue here to the west. And again, it was like, it was kind of like it started, all these Purdue Boilermaker fans started coming in. And you don't see, actually, now I think about it, you don't see, oh, no, I did. I saw a couple of NC Wolfpack fans going out and back there. And that's the thing you get down here at the world famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill. 98 televisions everywhere, upstairs, downstairs, out back, out front, up the sidewalk, down the sidewalk, in the restrooms, in the bathrooms, upstairs in the clubhouse. Let me just TVs everywhere with all the sports going on. But you guys and girls tell me. I mean, the first thing is that. Talking about Gregory, talking about going back when he's with the Cowboys, he gets traded out there, goes out west, and he's with the Niners, ends up in Denver, and you're like, what's going on with this guy? What's the problem? And we're talking about the fact that, without Shaq on the left side there, and you got Joe Tryon over here, and Yaya, and the success the Buccaneers had in 2023. But if you go back to when Dallas was having that success, when their defense, even before Micah Parsons, but when that defense under Dan Quinn was really starting to get jiggy with it, if you will, I got nothing else. It was because of Gregory, the length that he had, and not only from playing on the outside in a 4-3-4, but also being able to move on the inside. And that's one of the things that Coach Todd Bowles likes to do with this Buccaneers defense, is that have players that can play anywhere, because we always used to look at the 4-3 versus a 3-4. The 3-4 gave you the extra personnel. Never know which outside linebacker was going to put his hand in the dirt, become a down lineman or a rushing linebacker. Truth of the matter is, you don't know anyone on his Antoine Winfield. You don't know who's going to be rushing you, a linebacker blitz, who. But now you bring in a player like Gregory with a length, and you're still talking about one more year left on Joe Tryon-Shoyinka's contract before you start worrying about, Logan Hall and what's going on inside with Sac Avenue and Vita Vea. But the Buccaneers and Todd Bowles and Jason Licht know exactly where their bread is buttered, and that's on the pressure that you apply on quarterbacks that causes and creates turnovers and opportunities for your linebackers and your secondary. And you start mixing mixing around other players. This draft is approaching and free agency or who's going to be available. One thing that your Buccaneers, even going back, and I keep doing this, but we even did this back in 2020 when the Buccaneers went 55. We made comparisons to the first championship in team history, of course, 37 under Tony Dungy and Monty Kiffin, and the dogs we had, the Hall of Fame and the defense and the Buccaneers team we had at that time. Hi, Coach. How are you today? Good to see you. There's the guy right there, Mr. Coach, Coach Mark Ferguson. But we talked about that defense in 37 versus the Buccaneers, and it's funny because I think that we all buy into the old championships, defenses win championships, and that 100% is exactly what's going on. So if y'all excuse me again, I want to get this shared before I go before the third quarter or second half of the basketball game between the Boilermakers and the Wolfpack starts here. So let me go back in here. I apologize. So this is I'm looking at my Facebook page. It's literally me looking down at me. You're like, oh, what's this all about? Sorry, y'all. Let's go here. Oh, there's the one. This will be the one that gets a lot of Buck fans in. And let's go ahead here. I don't have one of these autofill shares feeds, which is probably explaining a lot for you. But just what a beautiful day it was here. What a beautiful Saturday. And it's not just here again in Tampa Bay. It's all across this is from 9 minutes. Actually, 9 minutes ago. But I want to get this last couple of shares done before I start off. Because I'm going to go ahead and tell y'all right now. I'm going to lead with this. Bronny James. Anybody comment? Oh, I got a comment right here. Alan McTavish. Let me show up in here. You are lacking a beer in your hand. Championship game on Monday. If you're allowed out, I'm buying. Oh, I got the beer in my hand, DJ Al, and I'll be here. It was funny because I was talking. Let me go ahead and throw this one up. Excuse me all for 1 second. I have to do an invite. Watch what I do here. You're going to love this. Okay. It's in StreamYard. I'm going to copy. Close it. Go to post a comment. Right click. Right click. Paste. See how long it takes. There you go, everyone. And from my YouTube page, go to my YouTube page, like and follow. I promise you'll never miss it. If I'm going to do anything risque, because here I am on Peter Blake's Facebook page here in the Sports Web, loving every minute of it. And of course, thanks to Peter Blake, thanks to Harry DeGreek, thanks for having me on Wednesday on the JP Peterson Show. And those of you all that follow us, those of you that follow Sports Web or follow Couple Ray or follow anything we're doing, you guys know that was the ongoing joke was, because Peter's locking it down with JP on Wednesdays, the JP Peterson Show, Monday through Friday from 10 to 12. And if I could ask JP one question, and I will because we'll get together sometime soon, is did you purposely go from 10 to 12 Monday through Friday? Because one of the problems I always had, and I'm just saying because of the fact of the matter is we don't have any local sports coverage from 10 to 12. There was a thing a couple of years back. Actually, it was a year and a half last year when Stu Sternberg broke in with a last-minute press conference. They were making an announcement. They were over to Dali Museum, and they were talking about the stadium. And I went to a local sports, and I'm like, let me find out what's going on. I want to hear this. And it was the Dan Patrick Show, and we were getting Dan Patrick's, Netflix movies for the month. Now, I understand. That's just the way that ran. That's the way it was. Oh, hey, Eric Harden says, hi, everyone. Let me get Eric. Eric, I put that in there for you, Eric. I tried to call you earlier, brother. I'd love to have you come in here if you can. Eric says, hi, everyone. Hi, Eric. But, and this isn't a knock on what anyone's doing or what anyone's not doing, but this is more like a commercial for Tampa Bay and the sporting market and the size of the market we have here in Tampa Bay with the Bucks and the Lightning and the Rays and the Rowdies and the USF Bulls. There's no reason why there shouldn't be local sports coverage from 10 to 12. I mean, I don't, I get it. Maybe it's not drive time. It's not drive time in the afternoon. Maybe not morning drive time. I get it. It's, but from 10 to 12, there should be local stuff breaking because on average, and trust me, I've done the work. I've done the numbers. On average, when Monday through Friday news, sports news is breaking for your Buccaneers, unless it's Aqib Talib punching a cabbie in the back of the neck or Jameis Winston out there in Phoenix, I don't know what he was doing, but it's happening usually between the hours of 9 and 1 or between the hours of 10 and 12, which is why I love the JP Peterson Show between the hours of 10 and 12, not just because of the stars, the cats, their interviews, the requests, the people he has on there, and, of course, my guy Peter Blake locking it down as the executive producer there on Wednesdays. Again, had me on Wednesday. But Tampa Bay, nobody puts baby in a corner, and nobody puts Tampa Bay. Well, on a peninsula. We are on a peninsula. But nobody, from 10 to 12, we need that local coverage. So that's what the JP Peterson Show does for you, not just because it's outstanding coverage, all the interviews, all the special guests that JP and Peter have on there, but also the fact of the matter is from Monday through Friday from 10 to 12, the Tampa Bay sports market should not be underserved. Got Tim Haynes says, what's up, Ray? What's up, Tim? What do you want to talk about today, Tim? I'll go ahead. I've done long enough, and I see the numbers up, so I'm going to go ahead and tell you all this. I got the numbers from both my YouTube platform and the Facebook, which actually my YouTube's looking pretty good. What's up, Tim? So yesterday about like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, maybe 12:30, maybe a little bit later, I get that tweet. Actually, I think it maybe would have been a little bit later in the afternoon, but I get that tweet from Bronny James. Of course, Bronny James playing out there at USC, the son of LeBron James. And Bronny James, the post that he had, the social media post that Bronny has is, I'm declaring for the NBA. I'm keeping my college eligibility, and I'm getting into the transfer portal. And there's nothing wrong with that. I didn't hear that. And I'm not thinking that there's something wrong with that, but I'm like, so, because you guys know here in the Sports Web how we've talked about the name, image, and likeness, the NIL. We talk about legalized gambling. We've talked about the transfer portal. All of these outside, these factors, these forces that are creating so much change, not just in professional sports, not just even in our college sports. I mean, in sports of all kind, but those are the two biggies, right? But especially with relations or in relation to our college players, our student athletes, and the transfer portal. Name, image, and likeness, meaning that these dogs are finally getting, all these players, men and women, girls, boys, sports, football, flag football, soccer, softball, baseball, whatever, every athlete, even your track and field stars, your college athletes that are not just competing for their college, that motorcycle has a has a freaking stereo and it sounds good. All eyes on. Playing a little bit Tupac. All eyes on. That's actually my theme song. But so as we continue to try to analyze everything, something new happens. We hear the coaches. We heard it during the ReliaQuest. We heard Coach Kelly during the ReliaQuest Bowl. The coach pressers over there, and he's talking about how crazy it is that here you are. You're preparing your team to play in a bowl game. You're preparing your team for what, and you're at the same time you're trying to get out to the transfer portal to see the other players that are available, because inevitably your players, the ones on your team, are going to get into that portal. And at the end of the day, it's like, as far as players being allowed to trade up or look for another program or something that better fits them, back in the old days, it was if the coach leaves, of course these players should have a chance to leave. Oh, Mike Stover, Lightning played a great game. Mike, yes, thank you for that. Not only number one, because they were down 4-1. And we were like watching it. We're like, you know what? Well, they just made the playoffs last night. They locked their place up. But we'd like to get ahead of Montreal the Maple Leafs, Toronto Maple Leafs. So it's like, I think it was Toronto, right? But we'd still like to win a couple of games. So it's not like once the Lightning locked up that playoffs last night, they're just going to give up. They're going to stay healthy. Although you're going to see that with John Cooper and a veteran Lightning team. They're going to make sure everyone's ready for these playoffs. Again, that goes toward that Tampa Bay mentality, which continues to thrive or strive to this day. But they're down 4-1, and you're like, that was the first thing we're all doing. We're like, oh, well, they just made the playoffs last night, so, it is what it is. But then they fight back in that third period, and they get back and score those 3 goals to tie it up. So now you're like, well, yeah, this is the Lightning. This is the NHL team that the entire rest of the National Hockey League has been watching for the last month. And darn, they better be afraid of them as we hit these playoffs, because not only are they playing that defense, and they've got Vazzy back in there looking good in the net, and they got the offensive juggernauts or powerhouse that they've always been, but they've got that. They've been there and done that. And, of course, I posed yesterday with that post that last year, as they get bounced out early by the Maple Leafs, it was like, and I remember as a Lightning fan when that happened last year, my first thought, and this is maybe what we're always doing, is how's the light looking? The sun is starting to look brilliant, right? My first thought as a Lightning fan was, well, it stinks that we're bounced right out, that it ends that soon, but isn't it great for our veterans that, okay, the season's over, get the clubs out, get the golf clubs out or what have you, enjoy your off season, get healthy, get right, enjoy your family, and then let's make another run at it in 2023, now into 2024. And that seems exactly what happened to your Lightning this season, is they got Vazzy back, and the young guys, the new guys we brought in are starting to learn that. What do we call that, guys, at this point? I don't want to say Lightning mentality or the John Cooper way or bourgeois, or what are we? Is there a nickname? Let me ask Mike Stover. Is there a nickname for the Lightning, for that sort of Lightning brand of play? I mean, be the Thunder. Yeah, 100%. We all are. Vazzy had an off game today, which is why he gave those goals up early. And you got to wonder that. To me, again, that goes toward the whole. We just made the playoffs last night. We're locked in. We're good. We can do a little bit more. But it's not like the Buccaneers last season where it was like, okay, we've won the South. We're 3-14. We've won the South, so let's not bother anymore. But I mean, the Lightning can still improve their position a little bit. But at the end of the day, I think that Lightning fans and really NHL fans of all, but respect great hockey and respect the Lightning that your hockey do play, would probably be like, we'd like to see them, get that 1 or 2 games. They're already 3 games or with a game in hand behind, getting in, being able to improve their position here for the playoffs. But at the end of the day, we want to see them get healthy and, get right at the right time. Because just like this March Madness, and just like the NFL playoffs and just like Major League Baseball playoffs, it's all about getting right at the right time, getting hot. And that's another thing with your Rays here in 2024. I know I'm jumping around here, but I'm looking, you guys jump in here, anything you want to talk about. I mean, in a couple of last 4 years as the Rays have made the postseason, they've had really, go back and look at the splits from 2020, 2021, 2022, and even into 2023. The Rays always had that success against their other teams in the AL East. And that was one of the things as Rays fans, we were always trying to, we're like, okay, that narrative doesn't even fly anymore, even though we know it still exists. One of the lower salaried teams, we're not spending over north of $300 million. In fact, Stu Sternberg will tell you he was nervous about $96 million coming into 2024. We're not that juggernaut of a team like the Los Angeles Dodgers. Shohei Ohtani's a bit off so far. Only one extra base hit, no home runs yet in 2024. You got to imagine some of that would happen with him and his interpreter, and the $4.5 million gambling thing is probably weighing a little bit, if nothing else, just because it's weighing on him. But the Rays had that success in the last 4 seasons against the Yankees, against the Red Sox, against the Blue Jays, and, of course, against the Orioles. Well, the Orioles won the division in 2023. The Yankees, they got pretty, a little better this offseason, although they continue to have some injury issues, but still do pretty well. They got a 13-foot, right porch there in Yankee Stadium, and they got some power hitters. But the Red Sox, they can maybe get hot at some point, but they kind of been going backwards. But then the Blue Jays, who the Rays saw here in the first series of 2020, this is opening season, is that this AL East is an improved division. And as Rays fans, maybe we're not going to jump out from 13-0 and jump out front. And it's going to be a little bit of a scrap. And right now, today, we are in last place in the AL East 1 week into this season as we're out there in Colorado playing against the Rockies, or, out there visiting the Rockies. A marathon, not a sprint, right? We've known that. That's one of the things, baseball fans, probably one of the harder lessons to learn. And we talked about your fans that moved down here, your Yankees, your Mets, your Chicago, White Sox, and Cubs, but people that migrated down here, and, it took them a generation. Now we're into the third generation of Rays fans here as we prepare to get a new stadium built across the street just behind the world-famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill, out here on Central Avenue, which is just below 16th Street in the Edge District of St. Petersburg. But one of the things we had to learn is that baseball is one of those sports where if you look at it on paper, you're actually losing 2/3 of the time. If you're a team that's successful, or a batter, or a third of the time, a pitcher, if you're successful a third of the time, you're actually doing well. So baseball's one of those deals where it's not just like, this team's 12-5 and, they locked up their division, or they're, 9-1. They're trying to, win it like the NFL, or even, hockey, or even basketball, although we don't care too much about that because we really don't have a professional basketball team here. But yeah, Mike, you tell me, Mike, what's the name? I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to throw one out here, Mike. So you got new players coming in here. Let's just go. They bring them in. Coop brings them in the office. First day here. Boy, that sun's looking good. See, my lighting looks good. I'm just going to disappear in a minute. Coop comes in. The first thing they do when they get here, and they go, look, welcome to the Lightning. You're going to play our style of hockey, which is championship style hockey. I don't know if you've heard lately, but we've had a way of making it to the postseason and to the Stanley Cup Finals, and even winning one or two. The Tampa Bay way. That's what it is. It's the Tampa Bay way. Because it's the Lightning hockey. It's John Cooper. It's Stamkos and Bazzi. But you know what? It's when it comes to your Lightning, it's the Tampa Bay way. Yeah, that's nice. That's a nice bite, man. It's a tight bite. I'm gonna mute for a second, and let me bring this in here. Oh, Christopher Cole says, "Hey, Christopher. No one's used that link yet. Tell me at least, Christopher, or anyone, if does that link work for you? If you pull that line, I threw it up in here. Let me bring it back down here. I gave it right here, the StreamYard link. See if you come." Y'all guys and girls notice the crawler across the bottom of the screen. Footage bound, videography, footage bound. Let me tell you something. Not only did I work with this production company for over 10 years, as we were voted #1 in West Central Florida by The Knot, and I hope there's at least one guy or girl out there watching right now that's got a friend or themselves are preparing to be married in the next year or two. And you guys, you understand the significance of being voted #1 by The Knot, which is the #1 periodical in all of the entire United States of America, but especially down here. I'm going to mute it again one more time while this idiot pulls out of here on his motorcycle. Hold on one second. Not only did I work with them, which is where I learned how to do my videography, which is I'm hoping my shot's working again, because remember I'm pretty much on a wire. I'm a clown on a wire up here, but FootageBound.com. Go and check out some of their work. Go and check out some of the videos they've done. And the thing is that it's not even a sell for me. All I'm doing is giving you all the tools to let somebody you know, if you have a daughter or a son, a grandson or a granddaughter, or a friend, or a father or a mother, or anyone you know who's getting married, you want to capture it. And I'll be honest with you, I can take your phone out, webcam, whatever. That's not even what you're paying for. But Footage Bound is going to get every angle, they're going to be there and get the nuptials. They're going to have everything recorded. You're going to hear it like you're intimately there. The wedding 10, 15, 20, 30 years from now, you're going to have this wedding. You're going to hear everything that was said between the husband or the groom and the bride, between the officiant and the mom and the dad. Even, the one thing you won't hear is what's being said between mom and son or daughter and father during the dance. But it's not just about capturing all the right angles, which Footage Bound does, but it's about the editing they do. And when you get your wedding back and it's done, and you've got everything from all the way from the first stretch in the morning to however the bride and groom leave the wedding 12 hours later, if that should so be how long that wedding is, and even some of the activities afterwards, because I know, having worked there for 10 years, that getting ready to put the cameras away, and all of a sudden, hey, grandma's dancing late. Well, the bride and the groom already left, but I'm going to capture grandma dancing, because that's a memory that they're going to want on their wedding video. And that's what you get with Footage Bound videography. So I just wanted to give them a shout out across here. They're not paying me anything, but when I always said, because people tell me in my entire life, you could sell anything. And I'm like, yeah, but you know what I'll never sell? I'll never sell anything I don't believe in. And I believe in FootageBound.com, Footage Bound videography. So if you know anybody who's thinking about, looking forward to, it's always a year or two out. That's the thing about it is, oh my God, I thought for a minute I was almost muted. It's always a year or two out, because you plan your weddings. These are the biggest days of your life. So if you know anybody, they want to just inquire. It's free to inquire. Sit down, talk to the people at FootageBound.com. Look at what they do. That's going to get you. Once you go to the website, you're locked in. But look at what they do. Call them. Best deal in town. Best videography in town. Footage Bound Productions. FootageBound.com. And thank you to them for just being as great as they are, because that's how I learned my videography, and that's how I'll also learn how to deal with people on the best day of their lives. Mike Stover says, I'm thinking it's going to be UConn versus Purdue in a championship game. Mike, I think you're right. Okay, it's an 8-point game now with just under 18 minutes left in the second half. And, of course, with Edey being the player of the year, the thing we were looking forward to is you pound him down low and try to put him in foul trouble, and I did not see any of that in the first half. I don't even know if Edey had a foul in the first half, and honestly, I haven't watched much Purdue basketball this year. Oh, see, now they just stopped him. Then they turn the ball over. I'm not going to sit here and do the entire game, but let me tell you something. I got here early today, went and saw my guy DJ Tim. I'm walking around looking for a place to set up, and I went out back and I went out front. I went up west and I went down east, and I wanted to give you guys and girls a shot up the sidewalk here, because there were so many people coming down from Arte and the buildings here, the condominiums here, just north of 16th Street on Central Avenue, just on the west side of the Edge District. God, why am I having trouble saying the Edge District of St. Petersburg, which is where the world famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill is located? But let me work it back to the Bronny thing, because I see the numbers jumped in here. Bronny has that text yesterday, or that social media post, that he says, I'm declaring for the NBA draft. I'm also maintaining my eligibility, and I'm also entering a transfer portal, which is the weird thing. Is obviously the way the NBA is set up now. And Mike, thanks for that comment. Anyone else comments, please jump in here. Anything you want to talk about. It's a Saturday night sport. It's Sabado Gigante here from the world famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill, and it's a Cup-A-Ray out here. Just a beautiful evening, and I got quite a lot of beer left here. I will be here on Monday night with the finals, depending on who it is. If it is Purdue and UConn, is it just me? Let me ask you guys and girls this. I'll work back to Bronny. I remember Danny Hurley as the other brother, right? Because Bobby Hurley was at Duke with Leitner and Krzyzewski, and just locking it down back in the day, back when it wasn't one, well before one and done was even a thing. I'm so sorry. One and done is one of those sayings that before NIL, before the transfer portal, these players with this immense talent, because you go back and you think about a Kemp, or you think about a Kobe Bryant, or you think about a LeBron James, players that really, they were ready They didn't even need college. They didn't even, and I mean, as a college basketball fan at the time, I was like, oh, I would have loved to have seen them. Would have loved to have seen the Fab Four in Michigan. Another Final Four moment. Big Final Four moments for me thinking back. Final Four moments. What else we have? 83, Jim Valvano and these North Carolina State Wolfpack, and they upset the Phi Slamma Jamma and the Houston and University of Houston and Akeem Olajuwon and Clyde. Can you imagine that Akeem Olajuwon? I know this is for some of you older fans out there, but Akeem Olajuwon and Clyde Drexler were on the same college team. They were Phi Slamma Jamma, but the big upset in '83, and yeah, that's a sad thing in '83. Man, I remember that. Oh, I'm old. Please share the show. I can't tell you how much I'd appreciate it, y'all. But yeah, the Monday night game out here is going to be fantastic. But going back to the I jumped off of it because I wanted to go somewhere, but I want to go back to the Bronny James thing because the antithesis of each other, if you will, antithesis, Leo word. As I'm holding a beer, sorry, Leo. Not that Leo's anti-beer, but for Bronny to say, "I'm declaring for the draft." And I'm entering a transfer portal, and I'm maintaining my eligibility. It's like, it almost feels like, Bronny, you didn't even announce anything. All you basically said was, how I started today is how I'm finishing today. If I go into the NBA draft, and let's be honest, I'm not saying there's not a team that's going to look to draft this kid because he's a good ball player. I don't know if he's NBA ready or what he's going to take him to get, but if it's him and his dad, if it's a twofer, if you're looking at bringing in LeBron and Bronny, then I think that ends up being a deal that gets closed. But I wasn't talking about that post because I thought I had a problem with it. But at first I did. At first I looked back. I looked at it because it just didn't seem right. And I'm like, wait, you're declaring for the draft and getting in the portal? And in between, you're maintaining your eligibility, which obviously you are if you're getting in the portal. So you're declaring for the draft and entering the portal. So you're basically telling the entire world, who wants it? Are you guys going to want it, the NBA? Or are you guys going to want to come down? Oh, Christopher Cole says, I'm watching WM40. Is that WrestleMania 40 is on right now? It's already started? Oh, you see, is that the pre-show, Christopher? Because I thought it started a little bit later because that's why I'll tell y'all what. You guys see what's going on back of me. This is nothing, right? This place is – I got a bunch of Wolfpack fans over here. I got a Boilermaker guy with the hard hat, the Purdue Boilermaker hard hat. But I've been seeing these droves of people, droves of young people, and they've been coming down the sidewalk, making a right into the back here and going straight out back where the WrestleMania is on the big screen out back here. And I'll tell you what, I'll show y'all. I got this shirt. I got this shirt. I got a third shirt. And I'll tell you why. It's unseasonably cold for Florida. It's like the first week of August, but it's August or April 6th, and it's chilly out here with this little front that came through. Now, I'm not getting gluttonous about it or I'm not bragging about it because I know in another month and 3 months from now, most of y'all that are watching Cup of Ray from my northern states, Johnny Dean and Ben Cornett out there out west a little bit, but of course, Andrew Faubert, my Canadian, the big board, July or August when it's 1,000 degrees down here and the humidity's to the roof, you guys are like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. It's nice here. But that's why I had to come down here. I'm like, wait a minute, to get the Final Four going on. You got WrestleMania out back. You got a beautiful day out there at the corner of Ferg Sports Bar and Grill. So, yeah, Christopher, give me an update. That's just a pre-show, right? So, again, not that I had a problem with anything that Bronny said, being that he's declaring for the draft but also jumping in the portal. But I'm like, it's just in light of everything that's happened in the last couple of years, especially in the last year or two. And now we're starting to hear coaches, we're starting to hear more and more college coaches that are starting to push back on that idea because they'll all agree the transfer portal, it's a good thing. Kids are trading up. My problem is, the biggest problem I have with the transfer portal is I know how kids think. We know how we used to think we were kids. We all know now. We know how our kids thought, or our friends' kids, or our kids' kids now at this point. Let's be honest. Some of us have kids who have kids. It makes us grandparents, which is a great thing. Always trading up. Oh, I'm here. I'm chasing that dream. Now I got a chance to go here. I'm chasing that dream, and it's a better dream. I get to here. Working on that. I get to here. 1%. 1%. Again, let me say that. 1% of your college players are going to make it to the professional, to the NFL, the NBA, the NHL, what have you. 1%, on average, 1%. Maybe that's being a little too kind. The other 99%, you go to college. You get there and you play on a team. You chase that dream that you've been doing since high school, maybe since Pee Wee football, since Pop Warner, since the YMCA leagues at the boys club. You're playing on the basketball team. As much as I always wanted to see the players in college, the college football, baseball, basketball, softball, soccer, our athletes, what's required of them, how much they have to train, especially today as opposed to 30, 40 years ago, but how much they have to train, how devoted they are. We hear Coach Galesh when we're doing the pressers over at Raymond James as the Bulls had a great season. And he's one of the biggest things Coach Galesh talks about is the players, they're hydrating right. It's crazy, right? Because you're like, hydrating right? Like when I played high school football, it was just, I'd say, Coach, I need water. He'd say, too bad. And then he'd throw up and Coach would say, all right, get a sip. And not that I'm not trying to compare it to today, but these days they've worn it down so much that the trainers and the programs at your bigger college, they're keeping an eye on how much water you're intaking, how much hydration, how much sleep you're getting. They're monitoring how much exercise, sleep, how much rest. And that's on top of the studies, on top of having to be ready for the tests, having your homework done, having your, getting work done. Tim Haynes says the grass is always greener in the portal. And yes, Tim, that's what I'm saying is that as much as I'm a fan of college sports, as much as I'm a fan of your team's getting better or your football and seeing these kids trade up, if it was my son or daughter, I'm the same way. I'm going to sit down with them. I'm going to say, oh, you're here? How do you like it here? Oh, you like it there, but you think you can go here and do better, and you got an opportunity, and coaches or your representation's been telling you, okay, let's do this as a family. But at the end of the day, as a parent, as much as I want to see my son or daughter succeed athletically or whatever, scholastically or whatever have you, because let's be honest, the portal and NIL, it doesn't have to just be for sports. I mean, I could think of a million ways why the NIL and transfer portal can apply to, scientists, spelling bee, geography bee, people that are doing stuff like that. But my point is that I want my son or daughter, I want to sit with them, I want to say, I wanted you to get this college experience, right? 20, 25, 30 years from now, when I'm, back at the house, I'm chilling out my 5 days a week in my condo down here on Central Avenue, just below 16th Street in the Edge District of St. Petersburg, which happens to be where Fergs is located. And yeah, I nailed it that time. I want to know that you got friends that you made in college, because that's what I see going back to footage-bound videography, doing the weddings for 10 years. I saw so many times, your wedding parties, your grooms and bridesmaids, your groomsmen, your even your ring girls, or your the children of part of the wedding. More often than not, those were friends you made in college, because we did huge FSU. I mean, huge FSU weddings where I swear I thought Bobby Bowden was going to show up. Going back a few years, it's been a few years since I did it. About 12, did it for 10. So yeah, Bowden was still coaching at FSU, but these are people, this is what you're doing at the college level as you're becoming young adults. You're getting out on your own. First time in your life, you're living on your own. First time in your life, you're responsible for your own meals. First time in your life, you're responsible for your own laundry. And then guess what? Mom and dad's not asking you if your homework's done every night. You're in college now. It's on you to do that. It's kind of how you're learning how to become a human or an adult, or you're growing up. And no, college doesn't have to be there to make that happen. But the problem is that you got all these players, these athletes, that they're chasing these dreams. They're chasing that dog, trading up or trading back because the situation's better. I'm just hoping in my heart, it aches that I'm thinking about so many kids that they get to where they keep chasing, and then maybe they get to a dead end. Maybe they get to an injury, or they get to maybe they end up, because they're transferring school to school, they thought that the next school they were going to was going to have a better support system to get those studies done, to stay eligible, to be able to play college football, or to be able to play college baseball or soccer. But maybe that's not happening, because at the end of the day, with the transfer portal, coach is just worrying about getting the best team he can have and fielding that team. So those guys and girls are the ones that could possibly get lost in the cracks. So that's the problem I have. Not a problem, but that's one of the issues I have with trying to say,
I think it's great that you want to make your program better and always be looking to continue tweak it. I got my tight ends were a little off this year. I got two Rob Gronkowski's in the portal. Bring them in here. Well, I want to make sure that those Rob Gronkowski's, once they get here. Hi, Laura. Come in here, Laura. Here, come on in. So you're right here. I remember you because I was talking to you. So I'm going to make sure they can hear you. You used to cheer for the Falcons, for Atlanta Falcons, and you're still in Atlanta.
Yes.
So are you still a Falcons fan?
I am.
So Kirk Cousins. I mean, because they're in the same division with these Bucs. Is that going to be what happened with Arthur Smith gone now and Raheem Morris back? Is that going to make the Falcons a threat in the South for the Buccaneers this year?
You know what? I think that they're just going to do what they're going to do, and I think that Falcons are just going to build their dynasty.
Right. I'm going to. So let me ask you this: you and I talked about when you were coaching, when you were cheerleading for the Falcons. What's some of the things that you got to do? Some of the things that maybe the normal person didn't get to do, but as a Falcon cheerleader, you got to do, and that we can look at. Because I've got my daughter would love to. She's a cheerleader now on a Pee Wee football, but wants to grow up. What's some of the things I can tell her she can look forward to when she's representing a team like that?
So when I cheered for the Falcons, like we absolutely. So we absolutely had a lot of privileges where we get to travel the world. We get to see different areas of the world. We, competed and did different things. So yes, like we would absolutely try out for the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, representing a team.
Yes.
Which was one of the best things when I was growing up and being able to, because as much as I like what was going on in the field, I was into the band.
You're the ambassador of your organization, and that's what we want to represent is your city and your town and whatever cheerleading team that and organization that you're going for. Like, we want you to represent that team.
Yes, thank you, Laura. I told you had to come on. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, it was good talking to you. I'm going to be looking for you. You better go to a Falcons game this year.
My stars. Yes.
Okay, if the Falcons win the division, I'm going to hate you, though. I'm kidding. Good to meet you. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
That was awesome. I'll tell you what, numbers went up. That was Laura, former Atlanta Falcons cheerleader. It was funny because she's walking along here, and she goes, what are you doing? And I go, well, it's a cup of Ray. First of all, the minute you say that, people are like, sus. But then I said, I talk Tampa Bay sports, Lightning, Rays, Bucks. And she said, I used to be a cheerleader for the Falcons. And she told me the years she was there. I'm not going to go there, but we were talking about it. It was great. So I said, Laura, if you're coming back down the sidewalk, you got to jump in and talk with me, because that's the kind of crew you're getting down here at the world famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill on a Saturday night as – oh, yeah, look at that. Purdue's up by, 11, 12 points with still over 12 and a half minutes left in the second half. But, yeah, they're just Edie and Purdue Boilermakers continue to pour that ball inside and probably going to get this win. I'm going to go and work it back to UConn because I was talking about Danny Hurley. I remember Bobby, and, of course, their father, Bobby Hurley, was a Hall of Fame college basketball coach. And Danny now coaching with UConn, going for the first team in 13 years or so, or maybe even more, going for a back-to-back national championship. And it's probably because I catch him on Pardon My Take with Big Cat and PFT. Love the fact that they get Danny. Had him last year, and they had him again just this last week, and they're talking to him. And he's, the best thing about when they interview college coaches. Last week it was Coach Izzo from Michigan State. They had Coach. Who did they have a couple of weeks ago? Help me out here, guys. I got another comment. Let me get in here. Mike Stover says, sweep the dirty bird. Mike, I should have said that when she was up here. She was fantastic. She was awesome. You could tell she was a cheerleader because she was so outgoing, so well-spoken, but she came over and she's like, and she didn't rub it on me, but I was like, wait a minute. So you guys got Raheem Morris? And she started talking she was a little bit nicer that time, but no, it was great talking to Laura, the former Falcons cheerleader. Oh, wait. Rick Pitino. They had Rick Pitino last week, and even between Pitino, Izzo, and then, of course, Hurley this week, all college basketball coaches that you interview this time of year, they've all got one thing in common, and it's not just March Madness, which they all kind of do because they played for it, but they're all horse. They're all horse, and I'm like, that reminds me of every Monday after a Bucks game. I mean, it used to be, and it still is to this day, it's so bad, but every Monday after a Buccaneers game, being so hoarse. But, you know, again, Danny Hurley, Bobby was at Duke, and Danny was, I should have known what Danny was going. He played for his dad in college, but love the fact that they both went and coached. They became coaches, which is probably inevitable because of the bloodline and their father, but what he's done with that UConn program, I'm a fan of Danny Hurley. So I would lie to you that I'd tell you just because of Jim Valvano and the 83 Wolfpack that if they somehow would have pulled out this victory, of course, they're only down by 9 right now, but if they'd have pulled this victory out over the Purdue Boilermakers, I would be rooting for them in the finals. But if it ends up being Purdue and if UConn does beat Alabama as expected, we'll see. Isn't that one of the reasons, guys and girls, why we're all such big fans of March Madness? I mean, you know, we all year we follow, because even let's go back before, someone just knocked someone down. Before legalized gambling, it was like, oh, this is whatever, you know, we like, but when it got to March, we wanted the Cinderellas. And I just realized something, Tim. You're commenting off my YouTube page. Tim, thanks for coming in on my YouTube page. I really appreciate that, trying to build that thing up. You know, what's funny is that we have multiple platforms going on here, but, the thing about these kids these days is they all walk by and they're like, who's that guy? And they look in here and they'll see the numbers. And if the numbers aren't in that window that it should be for them to even devote their time to it, they walk away from it. And they're like, because maybe I'm out here, I'm just that strange guy drinking a beer out here on the sidewalk in front of Ferg's. And they're like, yeah, he's probably just broadcasting to his family, which at this point, maybe I am. I'm kidding. I got to tell you, I got a good friend. I got several great friends that are Dallas Cowboy fans. I have a moment. I want to chuck something while I'm doing this, but Stephon Diggs gets traded to the Texans, and I'm like, wow. And then, of course, Peter Blake asked me the other day, which, again, thanks, Peter, for having me on the J.P. Peterson show there on Wednesday. But Pete was asking all day a couple of questions. One of the questions was, who do the Bucs? What's the position of need the Bucs are going to address in the draft? I said kicker. Has to be kicker. No, we got McLaughlin, but you can never be prepared. I mean, we went 10 years without a kicker here, guys and girls. But no, and another thing he asked me, which I thought was quite efficient, was quite a good question, was with Stephon Diggs going to Houston with C.J. Stroud and what they're doing down there. They got a running game, and of course, DeMeco Ryans and that defense, that they become a Super Bowl, possible Super Bowl team, or they become a favorite to maybe win Super Bowl 59. I'm like, you know what kind of they did? I mean, not only did they look so good in the AFC South, which last season it was going to be Trevor Lawrence, the rest of the AFC South, the Colts, the other teams, but then the Texans step out front. Now they got Stephon Diggs. Now you got a world-class receiver to go with a C.J. Stroud. And the good thing about this, Tim says, looks like a good night out. Terrific night out. It is, brother. Let me keep stretching my legs. In Buffalo, with Sean McDermott and that Buffalo Bills team and Josh Allen and what they were trying to do, I still don't know if they haven't addressed the issues they need to. They're going to have to address the wide receiver, especially now in the draft. But whereas you saw last year, we're waiting for him to blow up. We're like, wait till you see this. This is going to happen. This is going to blow up, and it never quite did. But Diggs was like, he's starting to question things, and there was the whole thing. There's a miscommunication between him and Sean McDermott, or him, and then, they had to have Josh Allen, and that's how we as fans of these professional sports these days now, it's like, we're waiting. Wait, oh my God, did he unfollow? Wait, did Diggs unfollow the Bills account? Or, did Byron Brown, or did someone else, because we're looking for Byron, of course, didn't jump in the portal. That's the kind of program you have here with these USF Bulls, as we have the spring game next Saturday, right? So look for that. Amped Up Sports, Peter Blake and myself. Hopefully, Peter, I haven't got with Peter and got the schedule, but we're going to be out there locking it down with our coverage of the Bulls spring game next Saturday. But we didn't see any of that. We haven't seen any of that. And as much as to my knowledge, we haven't seen any of that with this Bulls program, this AAC, this USF Bulls program, who made it to the NIT, had a fantastic year in 2023, 2024. Didn't see them jumping into the portal. But the thing with Stephon Diggs was he was already starting to go away from what they were doing here in Buffalo. He became more of a detriment than he became more of a liability than an asset. And now you got a $20 million liability, and you got a team like the Houston Texans, who have a team that they seem pretty locked and loaded under DeMeco Ryans, coached just tight, which 3 years ago when they were trading away Deshaun Watson, but then Cleveland gave them all those number ones, they've obviously built a good team. you get Stephon Diggs now as a Texan, and inevitably that there's going to be some Buffalo fans or some Texans fans that are going to be in some chat room here 6 months, 8 months from now when Diggs is having a great day, maybe has a 153 touchdown yard catch day. Like, oh, you guys traded him away. No, you understand what the Bills are trying to do. Being a defensive-minded team under Sean McDermott, but having a great quarterback, Josh Allen, is not going to make those mistakes. They get him a running game where it made more sense to trade him away for a second or a third-round pick, to let the Texans take that money, to get that contract off the books so you can continue to build a team. It's a 9-point game. Oh, people are really rooting for the Wolfpack down here. That's what that was all about. But thank you, Tim. Mike Stover says two-team race in the AFC South. So who's your two teams there, Mike? Obviously, Houston. Oh, my gosh. So, Mike, you're testing me here. Oh. And Tim says, yeah, I think they wanted Diggs out of there. I think 100% they wanted Diggs out of there, which is the reason why, as much as I wanted to, broadcasting live here from the world-famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill down here on Central Avenue, just below 16th Street in the Edge, District of St. Petersburg. I don't think I got that one either. But I think they wanted him out of there because he did not mesh, and he only had a year left, so he did not mesh what they were doing, which is, let me finish this real quick. Which is crazy because your Buccaneers have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. And, I mean, we had the kind of 2023 that we had with Baker, and everybody's looking at the quarterback position and the kicker position as Ryan Suckup gets replaced by McLaughlin. What's going on here? Tristan moves over to left tackle from right. A lot of things in transition, but one of the things that held true in 2023 and continues to hold true is that the Buccaneers still have, I think, the best receiving duo or the best receiving team in the entire National Football League, but that's just my own opinion. But, yeah, they 100% wanted him out of there. Comes a time where teams are like the Bears when they got rid of when they going to draft Caleb Williams number 1 overall. I love Caleb Williams, only doing one pre-draft visit to the Bears. I liked him. You know, it wasn't like, you know, Eli. It wasn't like Archie Manning back 1,000 years ago when he said he will not play for you or you know, trying to control it. Although people were trying to make that comparison in 2024, like, well, if Caleb doesn't want to be a Bear, I get it. The draft is kind of hoked up. As much as I think it's maybe unfair for the best quarterback in all of college football, of course, in this case, he didn't go to Carolina. Bryce Young went there the beginning of last season, but the Carolina Panthers are the worst team in the National Football League. Sorry, Dave Canales. But he goes to Chicago, and that's always the narrative is why is it fair for these quarterbacks, these Heisman Trophy quarterbacks, best in the entire college, get drafted number 1 overall, but they get drafted by the worst team in football, the 2-15 or the 1-16 or the 0-17, whoever. And I know that's hard. You got to hope that you're not going for a 1980s Buccaneers team with a Hugh Culverhouse as owner, right? You got to hope that if you imagine if you're in 86, now think about in 87, right? Let me go ahead and tell you this. In 1987, the Buccaneers drafted Vinny Testaverde, number 1 overall, out of the University of Miami. Heisman Trophy winner. Vinny Testaverde goes on to play for 72 years in the National Football League for like 102 football teams. He may have, while he was up in New York, he may have flipped it over north of the border and played for the Canadian Football League. I don't know. But you draft Vinny Testaverde in 1987. Imagine the meeting that went on when they went into the Buccaneers have the first overall pick in 1987. Vinny, we're going to draft you. And imagine Vinny's people going, wait a minute, is this the same team that just 12 months ago drafted Bo Jackson, number 1 overall, when Bo Jackson, after he lost his eligibility because Hugh Culverhouse flew him down here on his own private plane? And answer me, guys, I see you guys, girls watching. Do we still think, is there anyone out there to this day that thinks that Hugh Culverhouse, I don't want to say that Hugh Culverhouse was smart enough to know that if he flew down Bo Jackson in his private plane to come to Tampa, which he did, he would lose his senior season of baseball at Auburn. I don't want to give Hugh Culverhouse that much credit. But after he lost that eligibility, Bo Jackson made it pretty plain and pretty known that he would never play it down in Tampa Bay. And Hugh Culverhouse still drafts him number 1 overall. And now a year later, you're bringing in Vinny Testaverde, number 1 overall. And, I mean, what are you telling that guy? Of course, in 1988, you bring in Paul Gruber at left tackle. So by that time, I don't know about Vinny Testaverde, but Buccaneer fans, we started to realize that we were still making some good personnel decisions but we were still having that hard luck because we still had an owner that was pocketing that money in the front, didn't want to pay on the back. But at least we had some owners making a good decision. Tim says, that whole Bears organization scares me. Do you mean because of how good they're getting, Tim? Because I'll tell you what, now with Eberflus and Pace now, and I mean, now they have, what they getting that number 1 overall from, what a bus. Oh, it's a limo. Wait till you see this bus going back at me. You'll see it barely. I'll tell you all when it goes back at me so you can see it. There it is. It's like the prison bus from The Longest Yard, but it's a limo bus. It's tight, and it was full of people. But the Bears organization, I'll tell you what, the NFC North, I wanted to say, everyone's like, oh, the Vikings lost Kirk Cousins, and they're going to have to worry about replacing him. But that whole NFC North is going to be a division, I think, as much as the NFC East. I still want to call them the NFC East. And then you got the West, who they have the Niners out there in the West. So the entire NFC is getting better. And, people were talking about, I don't want to say it's part of the Buccaneers backing into the NFC South last year and then, of course, winning it this season. But they're like, oh, the AFC because they've got Patrick, they got the baby goat, and the AFC because they've got Herbert out there in Los Angeles for the Chargers, and they've got Josh Allen. Slow your roll. I mean, we can go to it. We could probably do many shows to take those 16 teams in both leagues. I had a little drop there. Misador says, say it ain't so, Bo. Yeah, I mean, but I'm just talking stuff that pops in my head. But imagine 87, Testaverde coming. He did not seem to mind. Remember the Sports Illustrated cover? He's in Miami. He's in his University of Miami. He's in a hurricane outfit. And he's like this. And you're like the golden child, Testaverde. And you know what? I never had a problem. I remember, I don't know if it was more the local media trying to search for what's the reason? Why is Testaverde not the savior here in Tampa Bay? He's colorblind? And I'm like, I don't know. I understand colorblind, but, we were wearing the creamsicles back then. So, I mean, you didn't have to be too color efficient to understand the difference between creamsicle and Chicago blue and red, or creamsicle and Detroit blue, or creamsicle and Minnesota, whatever purple that was. But I mean, that was just what the media put up on us. Misador says the Bears are going to be a solid SEC JV team. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, me. They got some dogs on that team. They've definitely gotten better. They're still going to be mixing it up with Jordan Love and the Packers and the Vikings and whoever they get to replace Kirk Cousins, and, of course, the Lions, who are the best team in the NFC North. So I'm not saying it's a pushover for the Bears, but I'll tell you what. This Caleb Williams cat. Okay. Bryce Young. You go back and he goes not Mater Day, but he's out there in high school maybe it was Mater Day, but he's out there in high school in California. He gets to the high school. It was Mater Day. He gets to high school, and he's so good. Bryce Young, quarterback for the Panthers, he's so good that the first day of spring practice is out there as a freshman. He goes out there and runs drills and does a few things, and the head coach literally turns to his offensive coordinator, and he goes, that guy's going to be our offensive coordinator one day. He tells his OC that, and would you know it, by the time that Bryce Young is playing in his junior season there in high school, he was his offensive coordinator for his high school football team because he understood the intricacies. He understood offensive breakdowns. He understood pressures, leaning on and leaning off. And that's why when Dave Canales goes there, I'm like, my first move is I'm like, oh, my God, Dave Canales. He saved Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield was a freaking dog before he got here. But he does give Bryce Young his best chance to develop as a quarterback. Doesn't mean the Panthers have success in 2024 or 5 or 6, but he will get Bryce Young on the road to perdition, which is the reason why I believe the Panthers brought in Dave Canales as the head coach. Probably had a hard time trying to sell that team to some other accomplished coach. Like, hey, you've been a coach before, or you're due to be a coach now, so come to this team that's probably going to still finish 2-15 or 3-14 in 2024, but we're going to develop the best quarterback or the best quarterback in 2023, the number 1 overall Bryce Young. I'm pretty sure that was probably part of the selling package here in Carolina. Tim Haynes says, I think he was just that stupid. Culverhouse. Yeah, he was not. I mean, tax attorney, he knew what he was doing. He steps in when, the original money jumps out of here in Tampa Bay. Culverhouse came in here and bought this team. So I from right then and there, he's the guy that knew the guy that had the money, that bought the team, that got the team here, and of course the Buccaneers here today in 2024. So from that standpoint alone, I get that. I'll give respect for that. But then for all of the decisions every year. God, what year was it? It's like maybe it was mid to late 80s. And at the time, the television monies, the NFL monies was $13 million a team. So you had 28 teams at the time. Before expansion, before two more became 32. There's 28 teams, 4 teams less, and every team would get $13 million. And Culverhouse would take that $13 million and he would stick it right in his pocket. That's where it's going. And then he would try to give back a little of his pocket. Oh, can you get the money from the Coke machines in the players' locker room to maybe try to get salaries covered? Can you figure out a way to maybe sell, some hot dogs at the stadium to cover the cost of trying to get a linebacker in here? Which is the reason why, again, when Hardy Nickerson came here, that was still Culverhouse was getting near the end of his run, but he was still very much in control of his team. But he started to do that, and the signing of Hardy Nickerson pretty much. And I'll go ahead and Hubert Meisel said this back in the day. Hubert Meisel, on whose shoulders I stood when I won 2019's Creative Loafing's Best Local Columnist. Every morning I got up, I would think about a Tom Banks or a Hugh Culverhouse or an Ira Kaufman or all the great reporters that we had here back in the day. But when we signed Hardy Nickerson, that was the Buccaneers. They hung a placard out. They put the open sign out that told the entire rest of the National Football League that this Tampa Bay team, this paradise of a see, the light does look good now. See, I knew it would get pretty. This paradise of a city, this tax-free income, this income-free tax state was serious now about Purdue's up by 15 points now. Yeah, it's over. 4 minutes left. It's definitely over. Go ahead and, NC State had a nice run. I like to tie it back to Jimmy V and the 83 Wolfpack. But, yeah, they had nothing for Purdue today. And, of course, now you got Alabama coming up against UConn here in the second game of the Final Four. And you got WrestleMania happening on the back. And that's one of the things about the world-famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill down here on Central Avenue, just below 16th Street in the edge of St. Petersburg, is that you can have 16 different parties going on. They got televisions everywhere. Coach and the staff is going to make sure whatever you want to watch in your area, it's got to be sports related, but, whether it's basketball or wrestling or, you got where's curling anymore? Remember how curling was? Remember when cornhole was the only sport we had on during COVID? That was crazy. Mike Stover says the Bears are going to win the North. My crazy prediction. I 100% agree with that. And that's with a rookie quarterback because they're not going to just make, first of all, Caleb Williams is a pro-style quarterback, Lincoln Riley, and, some other quarterbacks that have come to the NFL from college under Lincoln, prepared to play. But also that Bears team, they weren't the worst team in football. In fact, they were quite not the worst team. They still drafted number 9 as well as number 1 overall. So they're going to put 2 dogs on that team. Mike, I think the Bears. Now, I got to say the Lions and what Dan Campbell's doing. That's got to be your predicted favorite. If I was putting money, if I was betting a mortgage for next month on it, I'd have to look at the Lions first. But that Bears team, sneaky good. I don't think it's that crazy at all, Mike. But, yeah, it's a good prediction. My Me Store says the Bears' issue is and will always be the ownership. Watch this franchise will implode with the Williams pick. They will run him out of town in these 3 seasons. I'll tell you what, if that's what's going on there, it's pretty much what's going on in Dallas. Because I'm going to work it back to what I asked all my Dallas fans when Diggs goes down there, and we know that Dallas. What's going on? So you got Dak making $75 million a season, and they want to restructure and whatever. And then I started thinking back to when they found Tony Romo. And then they tripped over Dak Prescott when they drafted him in the 3rd out of Mississippi State, was it? But, it seems like since the last time they had a championship team, which was basically put together under, Jimmy Johnson, like 30 years ago. And then, of course, that team that resonated, that team that Jimmy Johnson built, they still win one for Barry Switzer. But, really, in the last 20 years, the only success the Cowboys have, other than a Micah Parsons or, bringing in a CeeDee Lamb, who's a great receiver. But, overall, the entire nature of the team. That seems to be almost what you're talking about there, me with the Bears, is that it's just bad decisions being made from the top, and it's at the detriment of the team, which is crazy. Because I remember when the Glaziers, when Malcolm Glazier, rest his soul, first bought these Buccaneers, they're like, hey, these Glaziers, they don't know anything about owning a football team. And okay, I get it because they had, but maybe they just knew enough. They knew enough to stay out of the way. And I don't mean stay out of the way like they don't, because their fingerprints are all over this team with Darcy Glazier Kasowitz and Brian Glazier and Joel Glazier, and the decisions they still make to this day. Get the number one fan day experience again. I know they said it was 4 years in a row, but let's look, what, 10 of the last 12 years. Their decisions that the Glaziers are making are all over this team, but maybe when it came to personnel and how to run a football team, maybe they realized they could defer to those who knew a little more than they did, a la Jason Light. Before that, I'm not going to go there. The other GMs we had before that. Me Store says 3. No, I knew what you said, me. Mike Stover says Edey plays like Jokic. Yeah, he does, right? Except for, I'll tell you what, I saw a piece on Edey today. That's one of the reasons why I've been so excited about the Final Four here in 2024 is because, or the March Madness, is because it's gotten back to the big men, right? Because I've always said the problem I've had with college football or basketball, these days, it's all about, well, not only is it one and done, but it's all about shoot it outside, throw to three. And I grew up, okay, kids, this is my dad walked up School Hill both ways, 3 miles in the snow, barefoot. I like the big men, like a Bill Laimbeer or a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar or a Hakeem Olajuwon or a Shaquille O'Neal, who we had here in Florida with the Magic. Feed it down low, feed it out. Feed it down low, feed it out. Feed it down low. Let Low use his size and weight to move in on the basket, and he's going to put it up for the easy two. And if it's not there, he can always kick it out to a Nick. Oh, God. Someone help me out here. That's kind of crazy. That's going to kill me that into a Nick's name. Nick, former Magic player. But we saw the going back and forth. We saw the structure of the offense, but we saw inside out, then shoot it out for the three, be opportunistic, take the three. Vinnie Johnson, microwave back in the day. But, that was basketball. And that's one of the things we've had here in 2024 with this March Madness is it's kind of back to the big men, right? With the NC State, but with Edey, and, of course, coming up the next game, is that you're seeing that we're starting to get back to where it's like, the narrative of a big guy down low. I don't know if Edey plays so much like Jokic, but I think that he actually plays like Jokic, but he also plays more like because he's also a front straight up a big man. Although he got blocked here, he got rejected here in this game today. But that's a point for another day. Me Store says without Culverhouse, the Bucks don't exist, and the Seahawks would have been the only expansion that season. Yeah. So don't forget me. Oh, excuse me. Not only would the Seahawks have been the only team that season, the Bucks, of course. Hey, bonus points. Can someone tell me? Oh, wait. Mike Stover says, I'm going to come back to you, me. Mike Stover says, Purdue's in firm control now. Yeah, they're in firm control of the postseason there, Mike. They can go back to school and work on those grades so they can continue to have that college experience and get that degree, which to me, if you're one of the 99%, the 99% of the ball players in college that aren't going to play professional sports, if you're the 1%, good for you, great. We're looking forward to seeing you on Saturdays or Sundays or Fridays or whatever day of the week. But if you're one of the 99% that aren't going to be playing in the pro sports, finish your degree, get that degree, get that diploma. And let's remember, as you trade up, as you trade to play better, as you're looking for a better chance to utilize your skill, always have that dream. I'm 55 years old in July. I haven't lost that dream yet. Yeah, 55. I haven't lost that dream. That's why I'm out here on the sidewalk in front of the world-famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill on a Saturday night. Don't lose that dream, but go back, get those grades, get that diploma. Because at the end of the day, if you haven't gotten that college experience, if all you did was play, you'll still have those memories. But remember, as much as they're using you and you're getting the NIL, which is good because you're getting paid for what you deserve to get paid for, but as much as the college or the institutions or the leagues are using you, Use them to get that diploma, get that degree, get those experiences, get those friends. So 20, 15, 10, 8 years from now, when you're getting married on a beautiful day and Footage Bound Productions is doing your Footage Bound Videography is doing your wedding, you got surrounded by all those friends that you made in college when you became an adult for the first time, when you first experienced responsibility. And it wasn't just because you were so busy chasing a dream that you didn't even realize that you were missing what you didn't even know what you were missing because you'd never experienced it. That was really the reason why I wanted to do the entire show today, is because going back to Bronny's thing, I think he was 100% correct, especially the microscope that Bronny James has lived under his entire life with LeBron as a father and then going into play basketball now and wanting to get to the professionals, but also playing in college. It's a shadow he's had to live under, and he's been under a microscope. I had no problem with him saying, I am declaring for the draft, keeping my eligibility, and getting into the portal in the same, it's like all he's saying is these are all the things that are available to me. And something tells me I'm not so worried about. It's not just because his dad's got millions and millions, maybe $1 billion in the bank and that whatever. I want Bronny to have that same college experience. I want all of these kids, these guys and girls that are going through college to make sure. I know you want to make us happy. I know you want to make Vegas happy by, playing great sports so you can put down good lines so everybody can get going and all that. And you want to feed the beast. But at the end of the day, it's about you guys and girls because you're the ones that we're depending on for all that. But we want to make sure you all have that college experience. And at the end of the day, that was the reason why I had problems when we first talked about literally a transfer portal that, think about this. I've heard this. I've even heard a couple of college coaches, you guys and girls tell me about this. I've heard a couple of college coaches talking about the fact that they'd like to see it go back to maybe where it was the 1 year deal. Like you can get in the portal, but maybe you can't play one season. Maybe that would keep some players that are on the brink, some players that maybe shouldn't jump, maybe some players that are having some academic issues or on a pretty good team. And whatever that grass is greener on the other side in that transfer portal, maybe they go, wow, I'm going to lose a year of eligibility, or I can stay here at insert college name here and make this work out. At the end of the day, I want to see you exceed and do as best as you can in your sport, but I also want to see y'all have that college experience. I'm going to stop preaching. I'm going to go back to Misador's comment here. Culver House, the Bucks don't exist. The Seahawks would have been the only expansion in that season. And then I wanted to say this because when I read that, the first thing that popped into my mind is then the Seahawks don't draft Steve Largent, number 2 overall in that 76 season, but they draft Leroy Selman, number 1 overall, of course, out of Oklahoma. And I mean, as much as, and I know I'm a mark for the USF Bulls. I'm a mark for the fact that Leroy Selman, after he retired from the Buccaneers in '85, I think it was, because of the back issues, and of course he worked for a bank here locally. He was working for a bank, and then he ends up becoming the athletic director for the USF Bulls. I don't know, and this is just I'm a Bucks fan. I want to tell this story right now, guys and girls. I'll tell this to you right now. I hope you don't mind. Is that for maybe one of you all out there? I see you watching it. Maybe you haven't heard me tell this story. My dad, who's also there above us watching from the big, from the luxury box there in the sky, best seat in the house over Raymond James Stadium. He was a police officer, so he worked these 7 to 3 shifts, right? So he comes home. I got home from school like at 2:30. We're there in Seminole off Walsingham Road, and my dad comes home. And he's like, "Hey, you want to go over and, because back then it was Chevron. If you guys and girls that used to go to the stadium there, the old Big Sombrero, and it was Chevron was the major. It was Chevron. It was Marlboro. It was Chevron, and then here come the vacuums, and of course Bill Curry Ford. Bill Curry Ford. Boom, Tampa. I had to throw that out there because I see y'all watching. My dad's like, "You want to go meet Leroy Selman?" I'm like, yeah. So it's like I'm only like 12 years old, so it's 1981, and we're going around a corner. Well, there was a Chevron, 300 yards that way and 20 yards that way from our house, and we go pulling up the street. We go pulling into the Chevron, and we pulling in, and it's like empty. There's no one there. And so we walk into the gas station, and we talk to the attendant that's working the gas station there. And back then, they used to have people that used to come out and pump your gas right there alone. Worth it for the story. And we're like, "Hey, is Leroy Selman here?" And he's like, "Oh, yeah, he's over in Bay 2. Really? So we go walking over. And I remember the exact time my dad and I were walking over, and we actually lean in, and there's Leroy Selman. He's sitting on a stool. He's just sitting there. "Come on in." And we go walking in there, and my dad, because my dad was a bigger Bucks fan than I was. My dad goes up and throws his hand into Leroy Selman's hand, and I watched my dad's hand. Excuse me. Which was, I'm only 12. My dad's hand was huge. And then I watched my dad's hand go into Leroy's hand, and it was like watching someone's hand go, Leroy's hand was like so huge. But it wasn't just the fact that Leroy Selman had huge hands or he was the biggest man that I had ever seen at that point in my life. But he spent a half an hour talking to us because it took another half an hour before people started queuing up for a line. And my dad and I got a half an hour of uninterrupted time with the greatest football player in the history of the Buccaneers. I know, I've told you Warren Sapp's my favorite. I know Double Nickel's probably the classiest player we've had, but Leroy Selman was the first one. He was the havoc wreaking in the backfield, the reason why the 79 team went from worst to first. He was everything we believed in, even with Hugh Culverhouse as an owner. But having that time to sit with Leroy Selman, it made an indelible impression on a 12-year-old kid, maybe, which is what survives to this day. So, yeah, without Culverhouse, without that money stepping up, they only expanded one team that year and not the two. It ends up being Seattle. And they don't take Steve Largent. They take Leroy Selman. And it might have changed the entire history of the Seahawks up till then. Later on, they'd have Dave Craig at quarterback and all those. But I'll tell you all what. Thank you all for tuning in today. I think I've said everything. They got the go back up here. Where's Chris at? Christopher Cole. I'm watching WrestleMania 40. You got WrestleMania out here tonight and tomorrow on the big screen out and back here. And I'll tell you all what, if you guys are like me, you're like, you think about this. It's like right now it's. I'm gonna see how much temperature is. Okay, 1 minute ago, the Rays are starting at Rockies, right? In Colorado versus the Rockies. The games are starting. This is what I want to see. Peter's like, why are you sitting there not talking for the longest time? Oh, here it is. Oh, it's 65 degrees. I am so spoiled. I'm like cold. I think it's chilly here. Must be the beer. I'm going to go out back here and watch a little bit of this WrestleMania. I want to see what this is all about. And I told you all the crowd was going out there. So, yeah, the game's over now. Purdue is one half of your your finals for Monday night, and we'll see who the other half's going to be as Alabama now is queuing up to take on the UConn Huskies and Dan Hurley. If you're down here tonight or tomorrow night enjoying this beautiful weather, or even on Monday, which will still be beautiful, come down here to the world famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill down here on Central Avenue, just below 16th Street in the Edge district of. I've had trouble all night saying that. Let me try it again. Hold on. So if you're down here in St. Petersburg, you want to see whether it's WrestleMania or basketball or even the Rays game, which there's a TV with the Rays game on right there. Come down here to the world famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill. Having a party out here on Central Avenue, which is just below 16th Street in the Edge district of St. Petersburg. That has never been hard for me to say before, but for some reason it is tonight. And you guys and girls know how I end every one of these things. Everyone needs to know someone cares this weekend. Why don't you be the one to let them know? Reach out and do a brother or a sister check, even during March Madness, even during the first week of baseball season, even as we're getting ready for the draft in another 2 weeks. Look for us to lock it down with our coverage through Anthem Sports for the Sports Web, for the USF Bulls spring football game next Saturday over there at the O'Connell Field, the soccer field there on the campus at USF. It's going to be crazy. It was sold out, standing room only in 2023, and I can guarantee you after the success that Coach Golesh and those USF Bulls had in 2023, it's going to be even more so in 2024 as we get the approval for that on-campus stadium to go forward. And somebody came to me with this, which is a great point. There are certain things at the USF Bulls, there are certain things that they could not do without their own on-campus stadium, that having that stadium and getting that bill is going to be able to make them available for. But it's also going to make it so much fun to go over and watch these Bulls, because as much as I've always loved the fact that the Bulls could play in Raymond James Stadium, just felt like that was the Bucs Stadium. I don't mind sharing it with Taylor Swift on the Eras Tour, or back in the day, I had no problem with sharing the big sombrero with the Who when I saw, or Pink Floyd when we saw those concerts out there. I don't even remember a lot of those concerts. There's a reason for that, but I don't have a problem sharing a stadium. But truth of the matter is, these Bulls, they needed that on-campus stadium. They get the approval for it, and we're going to get that thing. Let's get the shovels break ground for that just as much as we're looking for the shovels to break ground across the street here for the new stadium for your Tampa Bay Rays right here in St. Petersburg. Hope you have a great weekend, everybody. And again, let me finish with everyone needs to know someone cares this weekend. Why don't you be the one to let them know? Have a great weekend, and thanks for joining me for a Cup of Ray out here on the mean streets of St. Petersburg. Yeah, I'm going to nail it this time. You ready? Wait. That's a Stephon Diggs jersey. Some guys were sitting here looking at me. This Stephon Diggs jersey. He's probably heard me talking about him earlier. But you know what? It's always cool because everyone's having a great time vamping down here. The vibe is awesome. Everyone's celebrating, getting ready for the second game of the Final Four here in WrestleMania Outback at the world famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill down here on Central Avenue, just below 16th Street in the Edge District of St. Petersburg. Have a great weekend, everybody. And